So back to maintenance on the ATR800 tape machine. My first word of wisdom is, as you're working on this machine, print out copies of all of the circuits and the board layouts as well. You can actually get copies of the manuals from the Analog Rules website, and I'm very thankful of them for having it up there. One of the things I tend to do on troubleshooting problems is to mark with a highlighter pen where I've actually done some repairs and make some notes, appropriate notes on the circuits of all the things that I've found and replaced while I've actually been finding faults. I also tend to make copious notes on all the things that I've done, and in this case there's 171 faults. I've done some interesting things, like plotting out the full servo, analog and electrical tape sensors and position sensors, logging them all just to try to find what the right documentation is. When you download the manuals, you'll discover there's all kinds of voltage settings for the servos which are actually kind of wrong. It depends if it's a quarter-inch machine or a 4-track half-inch machine. And even then the settings are not optimum. The only way I found them was by going right through and plotting all the positional sensor settings for all the different speeds and then working it out. But yeah, always keep plenty of notes. It's always a good thing to refer back to, because if there's anything like this machine that I've been working on, many times I've had to go back and fix additional faults. Some of the things you'll need to do is recap the servo PWBs. Now these use some large Utilux connectors, and when TEAC made the transports for this, one of the things they did is they made these boards on Paxilin, not double-sided fiberglass board. And I was driven absolutely nuts for days and days on end until I finally discovered that all these big heavy pins, when you pulled the boards out, even after recapping, I didn't spot it, had micro fractures under some of the pins on the bottom of the board. They're invisible, you can't see them. The only way you will find them is under a high power microscope, and then you discover the problem. The only answer is to bridge them across onto the traces under the board to fix the problem. And it's mainly due to all the vibration on the transport backwards and forwards that causes stress on all the cables attached to these, which causes the PCB patterns underneath have the microfractures. But that'll save you a lot of time and trouble, believe me, if you solve that from day one. You need to do that on both print circuit assemblies for both PWBs, which is for the take-ups and also the supply spool. There are a few other things that you can do apart from all the documentation which comes in handy. One of the things that will come in handy if you can get it is to get an extender card. I didn't have one, so that drove me absolutely bananas. There are a few things on the transport you need to watch out for. So a lot of the tape that I used unfortunately had the habit of shedding oxide, and the only way I found to really clean the heads is to get in with a toothbrush and some methylated spirits, give it a really good scrub, and then you can use a lint-free cloth just to buff it out, just standard lint-free type things. And that's absolutely crucial on these machines, because if you don't buff it out and don't keep them scrupulously clean, you will get caught while you're doing all the repairs and alignments. At one stage I had 2 channels, failed to record, and it turned out just being a bit of build-up of grime on the heads causing the problem. But it can drive you nuts and take a lot of wasted time and effort. So a quick servo check with these is to put both the position sensors just in the detent position, and without any tape loaded you can just press say fast forward, and what should happen is the supply reel should be stationary if the servos are correctly set up, and you can do that in both directions as well. Let that guy slow down, and you go the other direction. Yeah, that's probably just dropped down a bit there. I'll just do it again. So if it's sitting there in the neutral position, what you will discover is that in this case the take-up will be stationary. That's a quick check to make sure the servos are correct. There's a few other gotchas with the transports as well, and that is that because these are set up as a 2-track, and also which is 2-track 1/4 inch or 4-track 1/2 inch, there are 2 tension sensors, one on the left, one on the right. So in this case with the 4-track, you need to make sure they're adjusted, in this case with the right hand one anti-clockwise, and the supply spool on this one here clockwise, so they're into the 1/2 inch position. If you put a 1/2 inch tape with 1/4 inch settings, you'll snap the tape, and you'll also find that you'll waste a lot of time trying to do the physical alignment, which can drive you absolutely insane, I can assure you. The other things you've got to watch out with these is if you invert the machine or if you move the machine, if you have a tape mishap, a spill or a split, very often the supply will actually revert back to the 1/4 inch tape. It's got a spring-loaded mechanism, and so if you get enough force on everything here, this guy will reset itself off to the 1/4 inch position. So always make sure with a 4-track machine these are in and locked in the 1/2 inch tape position. If you move them, you'll snap tapes, it'll drive you insane. A couple of other things to watch out for when you're working on these machines is that they at the back of the electronics, and also underneath on the transport down below, you will notice there is a transport plug and there's also a head plug. So these guys are locked. They've got a couple of clips on either end. Make sure they're in and locked properly. I've actually wasted 2 days by inverting the transport to work on it, and during the process what happened is one of the head plugs just came slightly out from down under the underneath the transport electronics, and so the machine would go into record, and the erase current would come on and erase the tape, but there'd be actually no record signal getting to the record head. Even when you went into the electronics and had a bit of a look, you could check the test points on the record boards, and you still wouldn't even, you'd see the signal in both test points. So here's the erase board here, so that's the actual head test point there, where you can check with the crow, and there's also another test point down here, which is the input of the bias to the little summing amp. So you'd see the bias and the record signal physically sitting on test point 4, but nothing on. We get down to the heads because the cable had unplugged. 2 days wasted on that one, but I thought I'd just pass that on anyway as a helpful, handy hint.